Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Force Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Strike is kind of painful because obviously actors and stuff, they aren't talking to anybody to give interviews and talk about the things that we want to know. So, we're going to talk about the things we want to know.
Very well then. So no news, but instead some questions I think you have for us over there.
Absolutely I do. Okay, let's start with the obvious question. Sabine's Force sensitivity. We did find out that she kind of has some, but that it's so low on the spectrum that she's got droids mocking her.
Well, I think the idea here is that everybody, of course, has the Force. Everybody's connected to it. Potentially anybody could maybe kind of learn to tap into that to some minor degree. And there are probably some who can tap into it a little bit more. And then you keep going up and up and up the scale until you get to that Jedi level M count, where you have the potential to really do some cool stuff like a Jedi.
Could this just be Ahsoka experimenting?
I mean, I don't think so. I think she would have some credence for it, right? She has to know that there's some kind of potential payoff, that she's not just trying to teach somebody to be a Jedi and kind of learn the ways of the Force. But
Feels
it's
like
impossible.
she's teaching a fish how to fly.
I mean, to a degree, right? Because I got to imagine if you don't really have that level of Force sensitivity, these things are not going to come easy, if at all. But I think the idea here is to show that anybody could potentially tap into the Force. But it's not like anybody's going to be the next Rey, for example. Not everybody can get that powerful, right?
I guess not. It's hard to say.
But you know what I mean, right? I think she has a minor degree of Force sensitivity. I think she shows a blip on the M count, right? She's going to have a slightly higher than maybe baseline. So there's something there to work with. But not a Jedi. The Jedi of old would have laughed at her M count and said, no. Kind of like Hu Yang did, right? You would be the least.
Yeah, the least of the least.
Yeah, so that's what I think with Sabine. Which is, I guess, an interesting concept. I don't know. I think we could have just had Sabine not be a Jedi because she's everything else already.
And they could have just gone with my idea, which I was thinking she was just getting trained because Ahsoka, let's say, found out about Baylan and Shin, and she goes, well, it'd be good if Sabine has more training with a lightsaber if she's going to go against somebody with a lightsaber.
Yeah, Mandalorian's already trained to fight Jedi, so getting trained by a Jedi to fight Jedi
Plus,
with a lightsaber
she has a
against Force
lightsaber.
users.
She was trained to use the dark saber.
Yeah, I think it would have just made sense just to go with that. And maybe that's what they are going with. They're just calling her a Jedi just because she's teaching her the principles as well. It's not just that she's teaching her lightsabers and stuff. She's actually trying to get her to fall in line with some of the ideals of the Jedi Order as well.
Perhaps. Let's move on to our next little question here. When this was one that we were going about on Discord today, Ahsoka and psychometry. Psychometry, for anyone who doesn't know, is it was popularized in the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order Survivor games.
Well, it was popular before that, but yeah,
but it was really
more
showcased
mainstream, I guess. Yeah.
In that, it's kind of the ability that when you touch something or enter an area that has strong ripples in the Force, that you can sense these things or relive events. You could almost say see them.
Yeah.
And the question came up is, does Ahsoka have psychometry? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I understand that it looks interesting that she I touched these pillars at this Night Sister thing and I know how to spin them. I feel like that's more akin to safe cracking.
Yeah, I mean, was she listening for the clicks?
Was she listening to a click for things to line up the correct way, or...
I tend to think she was listening to the Force, just kind of letting instinct take over, like this is the right way to align it. Not that she was...
I like the safe cracking idea.
I mean, potentially, I guess.
We don't know, because they didn't spell it out for us, if the Force was guiding her, or if she was just listening real hard.
I think this kind of ties into the first one, actually, where traditionally we've seen, certain Jedi will have certain, Quinlan Voss has psychometry.
Yes.
That's kind of where this comes from. So, traditionally, we've had this idea that certain Jedi will have skills that are not accessible to other Jedi. I think, again, what Filoni may be implying here is that certainly you can be really good at psychometry. It could be your gift. It could be what your speciality is.
Yeah.
But I think he's implying here that any Jedi can kind of tap into that idea a little bit.
It's just the Force, I think, kind of seeing a vision through the Force.
Yeah.
Even Leia, in the comic books, walked onto Naboo and felt the presence of Darth Maul.
She goes into the same hangar where the classic scene from The Phantom Menace where the doors open and Duel of the Fates kicks in and there's Maul. She kind of senses that when she goes to Naboo in the comics. So it's kind of what was showing there with Ahsoka, where she is at the base of the the tower and she kind of senses the battle and kind of sees some things. I think they're just kind of implying that, yeah, these are just kind of normal Jedi abilities.
Right.
And some can just do them a lot better than others. Like if Quinlan Voss were there,
he would have saw the play-by-play, the whole reenactment of the time or what happened.
Yeah, he would have been able to touch some things, and he'd be seeing it much more clearly than Ahsoka, who's kind of getting this
just like
general idea.
Some Jedi were much better at seeing the future, like Sifo Dyas.
There you go.
He was having so many visions of the future, they ended up driving him mad because he saw a future he could not prevent.
Yeah, well, he
tried to. He tried to. He made a clone army to try and stop it.
That was bad.
Mm-hmm. Just like I always thought that Mace Windu was more adept with the lightsaber than most.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he had some abilities. Some say he could tap into the dark side and all. Let's not get into all that.
So every Jedi can kind of specialize a little bit in what they can do. It's just natural abilities are stronger than others.
And this could explain, not that I necessarily want to give it an explanation, but it explains force healing, right? Right. We have this big thing with Grogu did it, Rey's done it. Well, it could be that.
Like Kylo's done it.
Yeah,
Ben, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be one of those things that all Jedi can kind of maybe give a little bit of healing, but if you have that certain gift, or if you're just Rey, you can do these things. And I kid.
Plus, if Ahsoka had psychometry, we would have definitely seen it.
She would have used it
in Clone Wars or Rebels, because it's almost like they don't do it by choice either. Sometimes they just touch something and it happens.
Well, I think she's been practicing different things. Like, she's off the grid for like 10 years, so who knows what she's been... Or this could be something that, inherited from the daughter, too. This could be she has a much better connection through the Force or with the Force because of her.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to talk about the timeline. Because the timeline, I think, of the show, it might be a mess.
I hope it's not. I hope we're just missing things. I think we were discussing a little bit of the timeline the other day.
We were discussing... We got a totally separate video we were ending up messing up with.
That Luke video that we did on Sunday, the Sunday ramble, there was another ramble within that video that we had to cut out. Because
like a whole another 7 minutes. It was like 15 minutes. And you're like, hey, we weren't talking about Luke.
We realized, for about 15 minutes we talked about the timeline and we're like, wait a minute, this isn't... And it's so intricate, it's so kind of embedded into that video because we were talking about things, so we didn't want to just take that and clip it out and redo it, so... But anyway...
Because we were talking about... Okay, so if Ahsoka picked up the tip from Morgan Elsbeth, we'll say, during the time of the Mandalorian, during 9 ABY, how come it took her so long to find the map?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Which is also proof that we weren't witnessing the Rebels epilogue, because we already gone through the map thing, which obviously did not take place in 5 ABY. It couldn't have, because the map wasn't in Sabine's possession at that point.
Yeah, we have a lot of, I argue that the Book of Boba Fett takes place after this. But somebody pointed out in the comments, and forgive me, I don't remember the name, but they pointed out, well, it could be that Luke doesn't want to go because somebody has to kind of stay behind and protect this galaxy, right?
Yeah, that was part of the conversation we had the other day as well.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. So it does kind of make sense that Luke wouldn't necessarily go to another galaxy and perhaps get stuck there, or who knows what. Like, we need Jedi here.
He has responsibilities here.
Yes, he needs to get the order going here. So that does make a lot of sense why he wouldn't tag along with this one.
But we were talking about how come it took Ahsoka so long to go after this map.
That's the one I don't understand, because it seems like she's going to get the locale from Morgan. She's going to pluck that right from her head.
We have to remember, Morgan is also a Force user because she's a Night Witch of Dathomir. Her skills in her dark magics could easily hide information from Ahsoka. She may have gotten the breadcrumb trail on how to start, but we don't know how long it took Ahsoka to actually find it.
I mean, Ahsoka implied she pretty much ripped it out of her head.
She implied that, but I don't think she did. I don't think she could.
I think she did some, not some very Jedi-like things to get that information.
And it's not the first time they have.
No, they do that in Clone Wars, too.
Didn't they do that to Cad Bane?
Cad Bane, yes.
Poor Cad Bane.
Well, Cad Bane wasn't. I love Cad Bane, but he wasn't exactly the nicest guy.
But we can also assume quite a bit of time has passed because Morgan Elsbeth is taken off that transport ship, and I'm assuming she was moving from, prison to jail.
It could be.
Because she was obviously taken captive by the New Republic. Ahsoka and Mando turned her in, probably collected a little bounty on her for all we know.
Maybe, yeah.
But that means she was probably in quote-unquote space jail for a while, probably waiting for a trial of some sorts.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that this was her being transported from space jail to space prison.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I like
trials over.
Yeah. Trial's
I mean,
over.
we don't know. Like, there's
I feel like that's the good time for Balon to intercept, though.
Yeah.
Now that she's being transported, it's like that old-time Western movies when you're on the prison bus moving from jail to go into the big house. That's when you have to stop and intercept.
Yeah.
That's when it's vulnerable. That's when you can get her.
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, though, that's just pure speculation, which, no fault of your own. We love to speculate here, but we have no basis to figure this out other than they were meeting with Home One. Mm-hmm. That's where the ship that gets, attacked, and where Morgan was. It's going to meet with Home One, which is kind of the flagship of the New Republic.
Yeah.
It's the same ship from Return of the Jedi, as a lot of you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like you could be onto something. Maybe she was somewhere else, and now she's being transported to Home One, and they're going to take her to the final destination, wherever that might be.
Yeah, they're taking her to space prison.
Yeah.
Wherever they're actually going to keep her.
Yes, which could be one of those ships that we see in The Mandalorian, though I think she's a little too...
too high up for that?
Yeah, too VIP-ish.
Yeah.
But who knows?
All right, our next topic here was Starkiller versus Clonikin.
Well, I know what you're...
I'm always rooting for Clonikin.
Yeah, I'm not on board the Starkiller bandwagon.
I think the only reason the Starkiller bandwagon exists is because of Sam Witwer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to see Starkiller. Don't get me wrong. That's cool. But I don't... And I know there's the Sam Witwer. He's in the credits. I get all that, and I understand why people are thinking this. But my problem is, like, it's not Starkiller. Like, Starkiller should not be hanging around post Return of the Jedi. He is dead long before that. So, unless this is a clone of his, which is a thing.
Yeah, we're doing all sorts of cloning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your theory involves cloning, too. Like, I just...
Lots of clones.
If we're going to get Starkiller, I just want, like, the actual story. Or something related to that original story. We don't have to quite copy the game.
Yeah.
Instead of just, like, throwing him down years after he should be dead.
Or else I'll be okay with the fact that maybe Marok is just Marok.
I think Marok is just Marok.
I think Marok... I feel like they're setting us up for a bait and switch by the fact that they've not had Marok speak. They're like, yes. Don't have him speak. Oh, can't take off the mask, because then we'll all know...
Yeah, it's not like Inquisitors haven't talked before.
Inquisitors talk plenty.
They like to talk.
Some of them are pretty chatty.
Some of them are very chatty. Mm-hmm. They're very arrogant, and they're going to tell you why they're going to kill you and how.
So the fact that this one has not spoken means that it's important for us to not hear its voice.
Yeah. Could be the Clonikin theory. Could be Anakin clone under there, and
that's really what I want. I don't know why. I just feel like there's a lot of emotional payoff then in the show for it, where she strikes him down, removes his helmet, and realizes it's like a clone of her master.
Yeah.
It could be really interesting, and then that's what drives her into the world between worlds to try and find some future where she could have saved him.
Interesting idea.
I just think that there's a lot of emotional impact there if they choose to go that direction.
Yeah.
Next question. Is Shin a Night Sister? This is another theory that I've had.
A Night Sister from other galaxy, you mean?
Yes.
Or original
I've heard a rumor
Dathomir?
that Shin was supposedly from another galaxy. She has the white hair. She's very pale. She kind of screams... She's got that intense stare.
The squirrel,
she
angry
feels
squirrel
a little
energy.
Night Sister to me. The fact that she was so interested and commented more than once about you're a witch and, like inquiring, and Morgan almost indulging her by giving her a little information. Why would Morgan do that? Morgan doesn't care about no Padawan. She just gives orders and walks away. She's as important.
Yeah. There's got to be something interesting with her, too, because we know Balin is former Jedi. That already makes him kind of interesting. So I'd imagine...
It's interesting in the fact that he's a former Jedi. His lightsaber is orange, which we're all assuming kind of hints that he's been doing darker deeds.
Yes.
I mean, he's working for
it's
what
like
we
a mood
consider
ring
the
kind of
enemy.
thing, the color of your lightsaber. But
yeah. But yet, Shin has a Padawan braid. The Sith rule of 2, whatever, she wouldn't have a Padawan braid. She would just be the apprentice.
She'd be trying to kill her master, yeah.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah. I don't think she'd be quite ready for that.
But she's being trained more along the lines of a Jedi, despite the fact that Balin made it very clear we are no Jedi.
No, but I think he still kind of holds to some of those.
It's interesting.
To a degree. Obviously, he's not the good guy anymore, but I think he likes kind of the structure that the Jedi had, maybe. Kind of sees value in that.
Yeah. He's like our chivalrous knight or our fallen knight who still wants to follow the code, but doesn't follow it the way it was originally meant to be followed.
Yeah. And I think of the two, the one that's more likely to carry on as a character would be, obviously Ray Stevenson is not, unfortunately has passed away, so he's not going to carry on in that way, but technically they could recast the character. There's a lot they could do, because I don't know that Balin is going to die this season. But I think if either of the characters has a bigger future, I think Shin would be set up for bigger things to come down the road, if you will, which would be kind of interesting to make her a Night Sister or from this other galaxy or do something unique with her, I guess is what I'm getting at. Because I do see her as the more long-term character of the two.
In the last question, this is kind of a fun, just little speculation guess. What episode do you think we're going to see Hayden Christensen as Anakin in?
5, because as you've pointed out before, that's Rosario Dawson's favorite episode.
That's my guess,
there has to be a reason for it.
Yeah. I also think it's going to be 5. And I did specifically say as Anakin Skywalker, because if he gets revealed in the next couple as a clone, that's not exactly Anakin. That's Marakakin. Which is totally different.
I like Clonikin better than Marakakin. Clonikin is going to catch on.
Clonikin?
When we see hashtag Clonikin on Twitter, it's going to be because of you. Even though no one will give you credit, because someone else will come up with it.
Someone else will have said it, and there get all the credit.
Well, maybe when you're a fellowship, we'll try to get it out there right away when they see the just starting the Clonikin.
It's like I said, Tano Tuesday.
Tano Tuesday would have been excellent.
Which is today. Wow.
Yeah. Even though there are some announcements for action figures today, which we will be covering
tomorrow
night or tonight, or I don't know what we're going to do. We'll figure it out. But we will cover that. But for now, that's all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and give us your thoughts or opinions or your speculation on any of these questions or anything else that pops into your mind or any other questions you think we should try to answer. Whatever the case may be, though, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.